cut me off for 4 years like I died, and they didn't want to pay for the funeral. No calls, no holidays, no, "How are you?" Just silence. Clean, cruel, and intentional, because I wouldn't do what my father demanded back then. I built my life anyway. I leased a narrow corner unit on Alder Street, scraped together equipment, one used grinder at a time, and turned a broken little space into a coffee shop people actually loved. Warm lights, calm music, regulars who knew my name, a chalkboard menu I rewrote every morning like it was a promise. It was 7:45 on a Tuesday when the bell above the glass door rang and the air changed. Not because of the cold outside, because of the sound of my mother's laugh. I looked up from the espresso machine and saw them walk in like they'd been here 100 times. My father first, broad shoulders, expensive coat, that same steady stare he used to use at dinner to make everyone else shrink. My mother beside him, smiling too brightly, eyes scanning the room like she was counting witnesses, and behind them, my younger sister, Lila, filming with her phone at chest level like this was content. They didn't hesitate at the line. They didn't wait to be greeted. They moved straight toward the counter, smiling at my customers like they were the owners doing a surprise visit. My father's voice boomed in a fake friendly way. "What a cute little place," he said, loud enough for the laptop crowd to hear. "We're so proud." Proud. My stomach tightened, but my hand stayed steady on the milk pitcher. I didn't give him the flinch he wanted. One of my regulars, Grant, glanced at me, confused. He knew my face. He didn't know my history. My father leaned on the counter like he belonged there. My mother smiled at a customer waiting for a latte and said, "Isn't it charming? Our daughter is so entrepreneurial." My daughter. 4 years of silence, and now she was claiming me in public, like it was a badge. I set the milk down, wiped my hands on a towel, and stepped forward calmly. "Can I help you?" I asked. My father's smile disappeared instantly. He reached into his leather portfolio and slapped a stapled packet onto my counter, hard enough to make the pen cup rattle. "Sign this," he hissed, dropping his voice low but keeping his posture loud. 15%. I didn't touch it. I looked at the top page. It was a partnership agreement, with my business name typed cleanly in bold, Riverside Coffee LLC, and my name printed as if I was already consenting. My mother smirked. Lila's phone tilted slightly to catch my face. My father leaned closer, voice tighter. "You want to keep playing independent?" he whispered. "Fine, but you're going to pay the family tax." I kept my tone flat. "Why would I sign over 15% of my business to you?" My father's eyes stayed cold. "Because I can make one call," he said. "And you'll be out of this space by the end of the week." My chest tightened, but my face didn't change. "To who?" I asked. He smiled without warmth. "Your landlord," he said. "I call him tonight. I tell him you're violating your lease. I tell him you're running unapproved subletting and unsafe wiring and whatever else I need to say. You think he'll fight for you? He'll protect his building." My mother's smirk widened like she loved the threat more than the money. "You're just renting," she murmured. "You don't own anything." I looked past them at my customers. A couple had stopped talking. A woman at the window table was pretending not to listen while listening anyway. People love a scene. My parents knew that. I didn't give them one. I slid the contract packet back toward my father without touching the pages, using the edge of a napkin like it was contaminated. "No," I said simply. My father's jaw flexed. "Then I call him," he said. I nodded once. "Sure," I said calmly. "Let's call him." My mother blinked. Lila's filming hand paused for half a second. My father hesitated, just a fraction, like he didn't expect me to agree. Then he pulled his phone out slowly, as if he was savoring it. "Fine," he said. "You're about to learn how the real world works." He tapped a contact and lifted the phone to his ear. I leaned slightly forward over the counter. "Put it on speaker," I said, voice calm, "so everyone can hear what you're about to do in my shop." My father's eyes flashed, anger, surprise, then calculation. But the customers were watching now. If he refused, he'd lose the performance advantage. So he tapped speaker. The ringtone echoed in the quiet. 1 ring. 2. Then a voice answered, gravelly and alert. "Yeah?" the man said. "This is Ray." My father smiled like he'd been waiting for this moment. "Ray," he said warmly, loud enough for the room, "this is Daniel Pierce. We need to talk about your tenant." My stomach stayed steady. I didn't speak yet. Ray paused. "My tenant?" he asked. "Which one?" My father's smile sharpened. "The coffee shop," he said. "Riverside Coffee. I'm her father, and I cut in gently, still calm. "Hi, Ray," I said, leaning closer to the phone. "It's Mara." My father's head snapped toward me. My mother's smirk froze. Ray's voice changed instantly. Not confused, not neutral, recognizing. "Mara?" he said. "Hey, what's going on?" And in that one word, "hey," I heard something my father wasn't ready for. A relationship. Not landlord and disposable tenant. Something else. My father's smile began to crack. My father's eyes flicked between my face and his phone like the device had betrayed him. He tightened his grip on it, trying to take the conversation back with volume. "Ray," he said sharply, "I'm calling as her father. I'm informing you there are issues you need to address. She's running a business in your unit that—" Ray cut him off mid-sentence. "Who is this?" Ray asked, tone flat. My father blinked once. "Daniel Pierce," he repeated, forced politeness. "Her father." A pause. Then Ray said something that made the room feel suddenly smaller. "I don't deal with fathers," he said. "I deal with my tenant. Mara, are you okay?" My mother's smile faltered, just slightly. Lila's phone lowered a fraction before she corrected it again. I kept my voice steady. "I'm fine," I said. "They walked in and threatened to call you unless I signed over part of my business. I wanted you to hear it directly." Silence. Then Ray exhaled, slow, annoyed. "All right," he said. "Daniel, you still on speaker?" My father stiffened. "Yes." "Good," Ray replied. "Then you can hear me clearly. You don't get to threaten my tenant, and you don't get to call me about her lease unless you're her attorney with written authorization." My father's jaw tightened. He tried to recover. "Ray, I own multiple properties," he said, puffing up. "I know how leases work. She's in violation." Ray's voice stayed calm, but it sharpened. "You don't know how this lease works," he said, "because I wrote it." My father's face twitched. I watched him realize this wasn't a random landlord he could intimidate with a phone call. Ray continued, "Mara's lease has a business writer. It's approved. The wiring was inspected. The permits were filed. I signed off on it personally." My father opened his mouth like he wanted to argue the facts out of existence. Ray didn't let him. "And Daniel," he added, "if you call my number again to harass her, I'll treat it as interference with contract and I'll hand it to my attorney. I don't play games with people who try to bully women in my buildings." My mother's cheeks went faintly pink. Lila's phone shifted, catching my father's tightening expression. My father tried a different angle, soft, manipulative. "Ray, you don't understand the family situation," he said. "Mara is unstable. She makes impulsive decisions. We're trying to protect her." Ray laughed once, short, humorless. "Protect her?" he repeated. "By extorting 15% of her business in the middle of her shop?" My father's lips pressed into a line. Ray's voice dropped colder. "You're not protecting her," he said. "You're trying to steal from her." I didn't react. I let Ray say the sentence because it sounded stronger coming from someone my father had expected to control. Ray turned his tone back toward me. "Mara," he said, "do you want me to come down there?" "No," I replied calmly. "I want a record." "You got it," he said. "I'm texting you right now that your lease is secure and that I do not recognize any calls or claims from them. Save it." "Thank you," I said. Ray went quiet for a beat, then added, And Mara, if they're threatening you, call the police, not me. My father snapped, unable to hold the mask anymore. This is ridiculous, he hissed into the phone. You're overreacting. It's a family matter. Ray's voice didn't move. Family matters don't include extortion, he said. Goodbye. The call ended. The speaker went silent. For half a second, the only sound in my shop was the soft hiss of the espresso machine and the faint clink of a spoon in a cup. Someone pretending nothing had happened. My father stared at his phone like it had betrayed him personally. Then he looked up at me, and his face shifted into something uglier than anger. Calculation. Cute, he said softly. You think you're safe because your landlord likes you. My mother's smirk returned, thinner now. You always find a man to hide behind, she murmured. I didn't respond to that. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain Ray was not a man I hide behind. He was a contract, a permit file, a business writer, a paper trail. My father tapped the contract packet again. Sign, he said louder now, or we'll do it another way. I kept my voice calm. What other way? I asked. He leaned in, eyes bright with spite. You're running your little shop under an LLC, he said. I know you're registered agent. I know what you filed when you formed it. You think I can't touch you because you learned to make lattes? My stomach tightened, but I stayed still. You haven't even been in my life for 4 years, I said evenly. How do you know anything about my filings? My mother's eyes flicked to my sister again. Lila's filming hand trembled slightly, then steadied. My father's smile sharpened. You posted your grand opening, he said. You tagged the business page. You're not as invisible as you think. Then he lowered his voice, viciously casual. I can file things too, he whispered. I can make your business look non-compliant. I can trigger an audit. I can make your merchant account freeze. I can make your suppliers nervous. He was describing institutional harassment the way some people describe the weather. I stared at him, calm. So you came here to extort me and threaten fraud, I said. My father shrugged. I came to claim what's owed, he said. 15%, or you lose everything. I didn't look at the contract again. I looked past him at my customers. They were watching. Not all of them, but enough. And that meant my father was already making the mistake he always makes. He thinks witnesses belong to him. Witnesses belong to whoever has proof. I picked up my phone, unlocked it, and opened my POS dashboard, the back-end admin view. I didn't do it dramatically. I did it like I was checking inventory. Then I tapped one tab. Ownership and compliance. My father's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? I kept my voice flat. I'm checking something, I said. My mother scoffed. Your little app won't help you. I didn't answer her. I walked to the end of the counter where our small office door was, opened it, and pulled a thin binder from my lockbox shelf. Not a dramatic evidence folder, a real one. Leases, permits, vendor contracts, LLC documents. I returned to the counter, set the binder down, and opened it to one page I'd printed months ago and never thought I'd need. My father stared at it, confused. What is that? He asked. It's my landlord's ownership statement, I said calmly, and the property manager's authorization letter. My father's eyes narrowed. Why would you have that? I slid the page toward him, still not touching his contract. Because I don't build anything without a paper trail. He glanced down, and I watched the exact moment his confidence shifted. Because the name on that letter wasn't just Ray's. It included the actual property owner's legal entity, an LLC I recognized from my county record search when I first negotiated this lease. And it wasn't Ray's personal holding. It was mine. My father blinked hard. What is this? He said again, but quieter. I looked at him, calm. Ray isn't just my landlord, I said. He's my partner on the building. My mother's smirk froze. Lila's phone dipped. My father's mouth opened slowly. Partner, he repeated. I nodded once. And if you threaten to call my landlord, I added softly, you're threatening me. My father stared at the letter like it had changed languages. Partner on the building? He repeated, too quiet to be performance now. That's not how leasing works. It is when you stop leasing, I said evenly. My mother's eyes narrowed. You're lying, she murmured, but her voice had lost its ease. Lila's phone hovered, searching, for the angle that would make me look crazy. She couldn't find it. I wasn't giving her one. My father tapped the counter with one finger. Prove it, he hissed. I nodded once, like he'd asked for a receipt. I opened the binder to a tab I'd labeled months ago and slid a single page forward. A recorded deed summary from the county portal with the legal description and the owner entity at the top. The print was clean, the stamp was real, and the names were not negotiable. My father's eyes dropped. Then he blinked hard. Because the owner line wasn't Ray. It wasn't Riverside Coffee. It was the property holding LLC Ray, and I formed after he gave me a right of first refusal, and I exercised it when the previous owner tried to flip the building. My name was on it. Not as a tenant, as managing member. My father's jaw tightened so hard I could see the muscle jump. So you bought the building, he said, like it hurt him to say it. I secured the building, I corrected. I secured my business. My mother's smile went sharp again, forced. With what money? She whispered. You didn't have money 4 years ago. I held her gaze, calm. I had time, I said, and silence. Lila shifted her phone toward my customers again, trying to pull them back into the story as witnesses. A couple at the window table froze mid-sip. Grant stared at my father like he was seeing him for the first time. My father snapped into a new tactic fast because he could feel his first threat dying. Fine, he said louder, reinflating. You think you're untouchable because you own some bricks. You still have a business license. You still have taxes. You still have compliance. He leaned closer, voice low. I can make your life expensive. My stomach tightened, but my tone didn't change. How? I asked. My father's eyes glittered. I can report you, he said. Health department, fire marshal, labor board, I can call. Your suppliers, I can call your payment processor. I can make you look risky. My mother's smirk returned. You don't know how fragile businesses are, she murmured, like she was teaching me. I looked at them for a long beat. Then I did exactly what I did with the landlord call. Sure, I said calmly. Do it. My father paused, thrown off again. What? Call whoever you want, I said. Put it on speaker, right here, in front of your audience. His face tightened. He wanted me scared. He wanted me begging. Instead, I was inviting him to leave fingerprints. He didn't like that. So he switched from threats to something worse. He reached into his portfolio again and pulled out a second packet, thinner, stapled, typed cleanly. He placed it on the counter like a weapon. This isn't a threat, he said. This is a filing. I didn't touch it. I read the title from where it sat. Demand for membership interest transfer. Riverside Coffee, LLC. My chest tightened, but my posture stayed steady. You can't demand ownership, I said. My father smiled without warmth. I can file, he replied, and filing creates problems. My mother tilted her head. You didn't think we forgot you, she said softly. We were watching, waiting. Lila's phone zoomed in on the packet like she wanted the internet to see the paper and assume it meant authority. I didn't argue the paper. I asked the only question paper can't dodge. What agency did you file with? I asked. My father's smile sharpened. Secretary of State, he said. Change of control. You think you're the only one who knows how to form an LLC? My stomach didn't drop. It narrowed. Because if he filed anything with the state, it would leave a trail. And if he did it wrong, it would leave his name on the mistake. I reached under the counter, opened a locked drawer, and pulled out my own phone charger cable. Not because I needed a charge, because the drawer also held the one thing my father couldn't handle: my business compliance alerts. I opened my registered agent portal app and tapped entity notifications. Nothing. No new filings, no approvals. I looked at my father. "When did you file it?" I asked. His eyes flicked away for half a second. "This morning," he said, "before we came." I nodded once and kept scrolling. Then my screen refreshed. A new alert populated at the top with a red flag icon. Urgent. Filing attempt detected. Change of registered agent/control request. My father's face tightened in real time, as if he could feel the system moving under him. I tapped the alert. A details page opened with timestamps, a reference number, and one line that made my throat go cold in a controlled way. Submission source network. Riverside Coffee Guest Wi-Fi. My eyes lifted to my father. He blinked once. Then my gaze shifted to Lila. Her phone was still up. Her thumb was still moving. She wasn't filming anymore. She was typing. On my counter, right in front of my customers, using my shop's Wi-Fi. My mother's mouth tightened. "Lila!" she snapped, suddenly not performative at all. Lila froze, phone halfway down. I kept my voice calm. "You were filing," I said. My father's eyes flashed. "That doesn't prove anything," he snapped. I tapped the next line. Submitted name, Daniel Pierce. Submitted email, Daniel Pierce. Two-factor verification sent to owner of record. Status, pending. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply turned the screen slightly so he could see his own name sitting on the attempt. "You filed it under your name," I said evenly. "From my guest network." My father stared at my screen like it was a knife he hadn't seen coming. My mother's face went pale in a small wave. "You idiot!" she hissed at him under her breath. Lila's phone shook slightly now. Her filming angle was gone. Her confidence was gone. All she had left was panic. My father tried to recover with volume. "Delete that!" he barked. I didn't move. "I can't," I said calmly. "It's a registered agent alert. It's preserved. It includes timestamps and a reference number." He leaned across the counter like he might grab my phone. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull back. I just lifted my chin slightly toward the ceiling. Cameras. We had them for the register, the seating area, and the front door. My customers knew it. My staff knew it. My father didn't think about it because people like him only consider surveillance when they're the ones using it. My barista, Nina, looked at me from the espresso station. I gave her one small nod. She reached under the counter and pressed the silent security button we installed after a break-in attempt last winter. No alarm, no drama, just an automatic call and a timestamp. My father straightened, sensing something shift but not knowing what. My mother's voice went tight. "Mara," she said, forcing sweetness back into her mouth, "why are you doing this? We're your family." I looked at her calmly. "You walked in here to extort me," I said. "Now you're committing filing fraud on my Wi-Fi." My father's face twisted. "You think a little paperwork alert scares me?" he snapped. "I can still ruin you." I held his gaze. "You're already doing it," I said, "and you're doing it on camera." His eyes flicked upward for the first time, noticing the small black dome above the corner of the counter. Then the bell above the door rang again, and this time it wasn't a customer. A man stepped inside wearing a suit that didn't belong to this street, holding a clipboard and looking straight at my father like he already knew his name. He didn't hesitate at the door like a customer deciding what to order. He walked in like he had a destination. Mid-40s, charcoal suit, no coffee in hand, clipboard tucked against his ribs. His eyes moved once across the room. Counter, cameras, customers, then locked onto my father as if he'd been given a photo. He approached the register and spoke calmly, professional volume. "Daniel Pierce?" he asked. My father's posture stiffened. "Who are you?" The man didn't answer with attitude. He answered with credentials. My name is Elliot Crane, he said, flipping open a badge-style ID card on a lanyard. Business filings compliance. I'm here regarding an urgent attempted change of control filing connected to Riverside Coffee LLC. My mother's face tightened. Lila's phone dipped again, then rose like she was trying to catch a clean angle. Elliot looked past my father and met my eyes. "Are you Mara Pierce?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He nodded once. "Ma'am, we received an automated fraud trigger from your registered agent portal," he said. "An individual attempted to submit a change of registered agent and executive control. The submission originated from this location's guest Wi-Fi network. I need to verify whether that filing was authorized by the owner of record." My father's jaw flexed. "This is private," he snapped. "Get out of here." Elliot didn't move. He didn't get louder. He simply turned the clipboard toward me and pointed to a reference line. "Reference number," he said. "Timestamp, network source, submitted name." I leaned slightly and saw the same details my phone had shown, only printed, formal, and worse. Submission timestamp, 9:12 a.m. network, Riverside Coffee Guest Wi-Fi, submitted by Daniel Pierce. Status, verification pending, /fraud review initiated. My father stared at the page like it was a trap he hadn't seen closing. My mother's voice went too sweet. "This is a misunderstanding," she said. "We're family." Elliot's eyes didn't flicker. "Ma'am," he said evenly, "family is not a filing authority." My father tried to reclaim the room with confidence. "I'm her father," he said. "I have a right to protect the family's interest." Elliot nodded once, as if he'd heard this exact line 100 times. "Then you won't mind providing identification," he said. "Because right now, you appear as the submitting party on a suspected fraudulent filing attempt." My father's mouth tightened. "I'm not giving you anything." Elliot's gaze shifted to me. "Ma'am," he said, "if you confirm this was unauthorized, we file a formal fraud affidavit with the Secretary of State and preserve all related records, including IP logs and surveillance time windows." I kept my voice calm. "It was unauthorized," I said, "and I want everything preserved." My father snapped, "Don't you dare!" I didn't look at him. I looked at Elliot. "Proceed," I said. Elliot nodded once, then glanced up toward the ceiling cameras over the counter. "Your cameras cover the register area?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "Good," he said. "We'll include a preservation request. If law enforcement needs footage, you'll have it." My father's eyes flicked upward, realizing too late that his visit had become an evidence timeline. My mother leaned in close to me, voice low and venomous. "You're going to regret humiliating us," she hissed. I didn't flinch. "You humiliated yourselves," I said quietly. "On my Wi-Fi, under my cameras." Elliot turned to my father again. "Sir," he said, calm, "I need your name confirmed for the record. If you refuse, I will note non-cooperation and proceed with the fraud report under the submission data we have." My father's eyes narrowed. "You're threatening me." "I'm documenting you," Elliot corrected. My father's hand twitched toward Lila's phone as if he wanted her to stop recording now. Lila didn't. She kept filming because she still thought she could turn this into a clip where I look like the villain. Then the front bell rang again. This time it was 2 uniformed officers, not rushing, not dramatic, just controlled steps and scanning eyes. Officer Ramirez walked in first. Officer Chen followed, hand resting near his radio. Ramirez approached the counter and looked at me. "Ma'am," she said, "we received a silent alarm from this location. Are you the owner?" "Yes," I replied. "Are you safe?" she asked. "I'm safe," I said calmly. "They're my family. They came in and threatened extortion and then attempted a fraudulent business filing from my guest network." Officer Ramirez's gaze shifted to my father. "Sir," she said, "step back from the counter." My father lifted his chin. "This is a family conversation," he snapped. "She's overreacting." Officer Chen didn't blink. "Step back," he repeated, calmer and firmer. My father hesitated, just long enough to show he was calculating whether the badge would still bend for him. It didn't. He stepped back. Officer Ramirez looked at Elliot. "Who are you?" she asked. Elliot held up his ID. "Business filings compliance," he said. "I'm here on a suspected fraudulent change of control submission tied to the business." Officer Ramirez nodded once, then turned to me. "Do you want them trespassed from your property?" she asked. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't look at Lila. I looked at my father. "Yes," I said evenly, "and I want it documented that he attempted to force me to sign over 15% of my business." Officer Chen pulled out a small notepad. "What was the threat?" he asked. My father said, "Sign over 15% or I call your landlord tonight," I said. Then he attempted to file a change of control request from my guest Wi-Fi when the landlord threat failed. Officer Ramirez's eyes tightened. "You have cameras?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "And the registered agent portal has the filing attempt log with timestamps." Officer Chen turned to my father. "Sir, do you have identification?" he asked. My father scoffed. "I'm not required." Officer Ramirez cut in, calm but sharper. "Sir, you are being accused of attempted fraud and extortion on a business premises. Provide identification or you will be detained while we verify." My father's face went a shade darker. "This is outrageous," he snapped, then reached into his coat and yanked out his wallet like he wanted everyone to see how insulted he was. Officer Chen took the ID, glanced at it, then looked back up at my father. "Daniel Pierce," he read aloud. "Okay." My mother's smile returned, thin and poisonous. "Now tell her to stop," she said to the officers. "She's unstable." Officer Ramirez didn't look at her. She looked at me. "Ma'am, do you want a formal trespass warning issued?" she asked. "Yes," I said. Officer Ramirez nodded and turned to my father. "Sir," she said, "you are now formally trespassed from this business. If you return, you will be arrested." My father's eyes flashed. "This is my daughter," he snapped. "You can't." "I can," Ramirez replied, "and I am." She gestured toward the door. "Leave." My father didn't move immediately. He looked at my customers like he was trying to salvage his pride through witnesses. Then he leaned toward me, voice low enough that it was meant to be private, except it wasn't private anymore. Everything in my shop echoed. "This was just the beginning," he whispered. "You think you can win with paperwork? I taught you paperwork." Officer Chen stepped closer. "Sir," he said, "now." My father finally turned toward the exit. My mother followed, lips pressed tight, eyes burning. Lila backed away last, still filming, still trying to get the final shot. At the doorway, Officer Ramirez stopped Lila. "Ma'am," she said, "turn around. I need your name." Lila blinked. "Why?" "Because," Ramirez said calmly, "the filing attempt originated from this location's Wi-Fi, and I need to document who was present and who was using devices at the counter." Lila's face went pale. My mother snapped, "She's a minor." "She's an adult," I said flatly. Lila swallowed and handed over her ID with shaking hands. Officer Chen took it, glanced down, then frowned slightly. He looked up at Lila again, then at his radio, then back to Officer Ramirez. "Ramirez," he said quietly, "you need to see this." "What?" Ramirez asked. Chen tilted his notepad away from the customers and whispered a number. Then he looked at me and said, low and careful, "Ma'am, there's an active report attached to your father's name from another address." My stomach tightened, but my face stayed controlled. "What kind of report?" Officer Chen's eyes held mine for a beat. "The same kind." He said, "Filing interference and attempted control." I didn't ask Officer Chen to explain in front of my customers. I nodded once and said, "We can talk in the back." Officer Ramirez guided my parents and Lila outside to the sidewalk, while Chen followed me into the small office behind the counter. Elliot Crane stepped in as well, closing the door softly like he understood chain of custody better than comfort. The muffled sound of the cafe returned on the other side of the door. Espresso hiss, low conversation, someone typing, life trying to keep going while my family tried to burn mine down. Officer Chen spoke first, voice low and controlled. "There's an earlier complaint tied to your father," he said. "Different location, different business, similar behavior, attempted filings, coercion." I didn't look surprised. I looked tired. "What location?" I asked. Chen checked his notes. "A small boutique across town," he said. "Owner reported pressure to sign over ownership interest. When she refused, an unauthorized filing attempt was detected through the state portal." Elliot's eyes narrowed. "That's the same pattern," he said quietly. "Filing attempts using public Wi-Fi, pushing for control changes." Officer Chen nodded. "Exactly," he said. "We don't always see it in real time, but your silent alarm plus the portal log created a clean timeline." I exhaled slowly. "So he's been doing this to other people," I said. "Or trying," Chen replied. "And now we have multiple incidents." Elliot opened his clipboard and added a note. "With today's submission reference, we can link the activity to a person, not just a network," he said, "especially with CCTV and the physical presence at the counter." Officer Ramirez knocked once, then opened the office door a crack. "They're outside," she said. "They're arguing on the sidewalk." I nodded. "Let them," I said calmly. "Because in my world, arguing isn't power. Paper is." I walked out from behind the counter and faced the room again. My customers had gone quiet the way people do when they know they just witnessed something they'll talk about later. I didn't make a speech. I kept it simple. "Sorry about that," I said to the room, voice steady. "Drinks are on track. Nina will take care of you." Nina, my barista, met my eyes and nodded. She didn't look scared. She looked proud. She'd seen enough of my father's type to understand what I just did. Then I stepped outside. My father was pacing near the curb like he wanted to keep performing even without an audience. My mother stood stiff, face tight. Lila was crying quietly, phone clutched like it was her lifeline. Officer Ramirez held her notebook and spoke to my father in a tone that didn't invite negotiation. "You've been trespassed," she said. "Leave the area." My father's eyes burned. "This is insane," he snapped. "She stole from us. She owes us. We gave her everything." "You gave me 4 years of silence," I said calmly. He spun toward me. "And we gave you your start," he barked. "We paid for your first equipment." I didn't argue. I didn't correct the lies with emotion. I pulled one small folder from my coat, thin, plain, not dramatic, and held it up. "Officer Ramirez," I said, "I'd like to file a report for attempted extortion and attempted fraudulent business filing. I also want the officer's body cam preserved. The cameras inside capture the counter area and the filing attempt moment." Ramirez nodded. "We'll document," she said. My father's jaw clenched. "You're really doing this?" he hissed. "Yes," I replied. He stepped closer, voice low, trying for intimidation one last time. "You think you can ruin me with paperwork," he said. "I can ruin you with one call. I know people." Officer Chen stepped between us automatically. "Back up," said. My father's eyes flicked to Chen's badge, and his posture adjusted slightly, because bullies always recalibrate when the room stops being theirs. My mother finally spoke, voice sharp and cold. "You're going to regret this," she said. "You'll be alone again. Nobody will want you." I held her gaze. "I'd rather be alone than owned," I said. Officer Ramirez finished the trespass documentation and handed my father the warning. "Sign," she said. My father refused at first, then realized refusal didn't erase it. He scribbled his name with a furious swipe. Lila whispered, "Dad, stop!" But he didn't hear her. He only heard pride. As they started walking away, Elliot Crane stepped out beside the officers. "Sir," he called to my father, calm and crisp. "One more thing." My father turned, irritated. "What?" Elliot held up his clipboard. "Your filing attempt reference number is now flagged," he said. "It will be cross-linked with the earlier complaint. Any further attempt to change control of an entity you do not own will trigger an automatic fraud review and law enforcement notification." My father's face tightened. "You're threatening me." "No," Elliot replied. "I'm informing you." My father looked like he wanted to explode, but there were uniforms here, and there were cameras, and there were customers watching from inside. So he did the only thing left. He left. 2 days later, my registered agent forwarded me the official incident packet, the attempted change of control submission, the network source information, the reference number, and the fraud flag status that prevented the filing from ever being accepted. My attorney sent a formal preservation letter to the Secretary of State's office and to the Filings Compliance Unit, ensuring the submission logs and authentication attempts were retained. The police report from my shop was not treated as family drama because the earlier, boutique complaint existed. Once investigators saw the pattern, same coercion language, same sign over a percentage, same attempted filing from public Wi-Fi, they opened a case for repeated attempted fraud. It wasn't a single emotional outburst. It was a method. Within a week, my father was served with a restraining order that barred him from my business, my building, and my residence. The order included a specific clause about interference with business operations and attempted administrative control. He hated that wording more than the distance, because it named what he was. My mother tried the old route, calling relatives, spinning stories, sending messages about forgiveness and family unity. It didn't land the way it used to, not after the body cam existed, not after the filings record existed, not after my customers had seen them walk in, smiling like they owned my counters. Lila deleted her video attempts the same night the officers took her statement. But it didn't matter. The building cameras and the portal logs were already preserved. She wasn't charged, but she was documented, and that was enough to stop her from playing content creator with my life again. She stopped coming near the shop once she realized she couldn't edit reality. My father tried one more move, quietly, through an email that looked like it came from a business consultant, offering me a strategic partnership. The consultant email traced back to a domain he registered. My attorney added it to the case file, and the investigating officer called him directly. That was the moment he finally understood. Every move he made now created another timestamp. The coffee shop didn't suffer. It got stronger. Customers who witnessed the scene came back. Some left extra tips. One woman slid me a note that said, "Thank you for staying calm. That's what real power looks like." I didn't frame it. I just kept it in the same drawer as my lease, my permits, and the filings alerts, proof that my life isn't built on approval anymore. And when my parents realized they couldn't bully their way into ownership, they did what they always do when they lose. They disappeared again. But this time, the silence felt different. This time, the silence was mine. End of story. Hi, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the story. I'm curious to know what you would do in my place. If you had been cut off from your family for years and suddenly they showed up at your business demanding a percentage, would you give in just to keep the peace? Or would you stand your ground and let the truth speak for itself? Let me know in the comments. I genuinely like to hear your thoughts. And if this story resonated with you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and I appreciate every one of you watching.